Hello, I'm Greg Patterson, CEO of the Advisory Group. I'm a San Francisco Bay Area husband, father, business owner, and Ironman triathlete. And I'm here today to share 7 lessons I've learned from Ironman Triathlons and how they can help make your wealth and life success easier. I'm happy to share this. My triathlon experience has taught me a lot that having a good plan and the right guidance can dramatically change your endurance and your outcomes. And those learnings also apply to designing a wealth life strategy to live the life you really want to live. For context, the Advisory Group is a wealth and life strategy firm, and we're about helping business owners and leaders make work optional through life-changing financial advice. We also help leaders as fiduciaries help their employees at their companies through smart retirement plan design and advice, as well as foundation endowment help for their philanthropic interests. Everyone at our firm, myself included, thrives on using our experience to help others make breakthroughs and achieve their goals. And we hope this presentation gets you a little bit closer to your goals as well. Let's get started. Lesson 1, crazy ideas are often possible. Clarify the goal, have a plan, and stick with it. I'm sure all of you have some wild goals. So think about what's on your bucket list, your top 2 or 3 things if you had more time. Maybe that involves travel or having the option to work less or not work or something entirely different. So what is that idea? Pop that in the chat box and you can take a peek and see what others are thinking as well. It'll be fun to see that. Those of you that are business owners and leaders are surely goal-driven in your business, and most of you have strategic plans. Hopefully you're taking that same approach for your personal wealth and life goals as well. Triathlon lessons 1 and 2 relate to that and are the foundation, so we'll spend a bit more time on that and then a little less on the remaining lessons. So as you know, if you don't have a map and you don't map out key steps to a goal, or if you have a fuzzy goal, you might end up anywhere, whether it's a triathlon or a wealth life matter. In triathlons, like many other things, it's important to be clear about what you want. For some, it's just to finish the race. For others, it's to reach a certain place or race in a certain time. But the first step in controlling your destiny is to define what success means to you, whether that be a triathlon or something else. Not having a plan is great when you're on vacation, but a plan is critical for the really important things. We've seen this play out both ways in the wealth and life space. Those without a plan usually end up less satisfied with the journey and the outcome, have less to celebrate, oftentimes just working hard towards some undefined end, often without as much of a sense of purpose as they would like. And maybe in saying that, I've just defined a midlife crisis. So there are 2 key themes in terms of how these items connected for me. A number of years ago, I was at full speed in our business and raising kids, and my goals were a bit vague. And I felt a little rudderless, but I knew I wanted to provide for my family, both in terms of relationships and financially, and help our clients. I had this wake-up call on various levels when a friend who was a business owner died from a heart attack doing light exercise. He hadn't taken care of himself or his personal finances, and his family really suffered, both emotionally and financially. So I took the steps to make sure that I really had the right financial protections for my family, but I really wasn't taking care of myself as well as I should. And as a result, I wasn't fully taking care of my family because they were counting on me. I had done some short triathlons for fun over the years, but with minimal training, but I hadn't really done that and hadn't done much in a while, so I started getting back in shape. I decided to shoot for a full Ironman, since you can't get away with not training much for a short triathlon, even though those are great too, because you can if you want, train somewhat and still get away with finishing a short one, but you can't fake a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile marathon. You really have to do the work if you want to go long and do a 140 mile full Ironman race. It was a little scary because at first I had no idea how to train right, let alone finish an Ironman. And I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know. So I started reading about how to train and realized I needed some kind of goal and a plan rather than just guessing and hoping. In the process, I learned that if you write down your goal and tell someone, studies show that your chance of success goes up by about 50%. So that's what I did. In Wealth and Life, the equivalent is figuring out and stress testing what some would call your number, quote unquote, which is the minimum after-tax spendable assets you need to live the life you want to live and when you want to live it. For triathlons, I learned to pick 2 goals for each race, a stretch goal plus a fallback goal that I could celebrate if the stretch goal fell through. The idea is to land within a band of outcomes that you'll be happy with regardless of where you end up. And this is also a great way to set wealth and life strategy goals. Telling people a goal also relates to getting buy-in from key people, because the more challenging the goal is, the more you need allies during the struggle. With family and the business, I needed to make sure it worked for everyone because triathlons weren't my only priority. Without buy-in, there could be confusion or resentment on both sides. Of course, this is a great opportunity to do the same for them, going beyond yourself to support their crazy goals too. So then with goal clarity and allies, you can really start to create an actual plan, whether it involves a triathlon, a business goal, a lifestyle change, self-improvement, financial independence, or whatever's most important to you. But at this stage of my triathlons, I didn't really know how to come up with a real plan, so I cobbled one together and trained as best I could. And this do-it-yourself approach can do okay, but it can really only take you so far. The more complex and challenging the goal and plan, the more valuable it is to get good help. And that good help oftentimes is best to come from a coach or an advisor to help you cut through the noise. But I really didn't learn that until later for triathlons, even though our whole business is about wealth life coaching for clients. A real plan then is a strategy with a proven process for success, an outline of what to do and when, and also what not to do. So my first triathlon plan wasn't great, but it was a start. And eventually I finished that first Ironman, partly because I just stuck with it, both in terms of training and the race itself, despite having just a basic patchwork plan. And that race wasn't pretty. It was hot, 94 degrees. I got cramps along the way a couple times. And I ended up adding several miles on the bike ride due to taking the wrong turn. But I did end up finishing. So to summarize lesson 1 in terms of wealth and life matters, having goal clarity helps you come up with the right number and the right timing. With that, you can develop a plan to make it happen, which gives you the steps to get there and increases your chance of getting to the goal, especially if the plan is good and if you stick with that plan. However, doing it all yourself can be much more stressful with more pitfalls, some of which may be hard to recover from, may take more time and effort, and it might or might not be the right number at the right time. Here's an exercise we use with clients around goal clarification in advance of creating a plan. This goal discovery chalkboard has 4 quadrants in terms of short-term and longer term and what's desired versus required. And you can try this with your spouse or your business partners or even your kids around your crazy and not so crazy goals. And by your, I mean yours and theirs. And it's best to fill it out separately and then compare, discuss, and agree on a joint version. This is one of the fun parts of our process with clients. Sometimes it's the first time some clients really actually articulate their wild goals. And that's the first step towards making them possible. You'll find that liberating just to get the ideas out. And almost everybody has an idea they dream about, but maybe haven't really stated yet. This document, if you take a peek at the footer in our pages here, most of the pages, there's a link and you'll find a place where you can download an example of this chart and you can print it out and play around with it yourself. Lesson 2, use design thinking to make your goals easier and to make it harder to fail. This is about questioning the status quo to get rid of barriers and friction to progress. I did a lot of thinking in the weeks after my first Ironman, and I started to wonder what would happen if I used a real plan for training and racing. So being the glutton for punishment that I am, I signed up for Ironman Tahoe, which is at altitude and therefore even more challenging. But I wanted to see what I could do, so I set my stretch goal to finish in the top 10% of my age group. Another goal was not to let triathlons affect my family much or my work. So I got a template plan from a coach, a good coach this time, rather than just my patchwork plan. And I was able to ask the coach some clarification questions, but I still didn't have a real coaching relationship. And I didn't know how to adjust the plan really to my customized needs. I thought just having a template plan was enough because all humans are all the same, right? Well, not exactly, as you know. My big challenge now is figuring out how to find the time to train without letting my family or my business down. This brings us to the concept of peak busyness. This is a term we coined, and I'm sure you can relate. We see this all the time with our clients, and especially in the 40 to 55 age range, overwhelmed with life demands, so many balls in the air, sometimes feeling like some of those balls might start to slip. Basically, all the projects that you started 10 to 20 years ago are all at their most demanding stage, all coming together at the same time, and it feels like there's barely time to think, let alone relax. Often, it's a combination of marriage, raising kids, business growth, bigger roles in the business, community efforts, self-care, staying current, aging parents, maybe family with health issues, home remodels, vacation homes, and more. I'm sure you have an even longer list. And on top of that, hopefully, maintaining and progressing with your wealth life planning. You really need to make it easy to execute that plan and all the other things that you need to do. Otherwise, it gets tough and pretty stressful and decreases the chance of accomplishing some of those important things. So the key to managing peak busyness is to design your life to make your goals both possible and easier. So design thinking is about making it work for you, removing the roadblocks, saving time with planning, and forming habits that support the goal. For triathlons, I converted my master plan into one-page actionable summaries for each stage of training. That way I know what to do each day and at what time, so I can schedule it and coordinate with family and work and make sure I got everything done that I needed to do, all of my key priorities. Here you can see one example. On the right is an outline of what a week looks like at a certain stage in the training for a full Ironman. In the middle shows kind of the breakdown of the different periods of training across the course of, say, 6 months. And on the left here shows the one-page double-sided outline of the key things for each training month. And here's an example of one that I keep for my current stage in my pocket or wallet all the time, so I can see where I am without wondering what I need to do, and that takes a lot of the stress out. Because when you know what to do, that means you also know what not to do that would be counterproductive to the goal. So part of design thinking for me was to do my 5 to 6 hour long day bike rides on Fridays during the period of the season when those long rides are required once a week, and getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning so that it wouldn't cut into my weekend family time or my work. I also got a bonus out of training early. There was no traffic, so it was safer, and there were beautiful sunrises, as you can see here. I could really clear my mind, and it helped me be more relaxed in general. And in that state, I made better decisions and was more efficient in our business as well. Sometimes in the middle of training, I'd come up with some of my best new ideas and solutions to help clients and the business. I also made it easier by having training backpacks everywhere. I'd have one in each car, one at the office, one that I could grab and go for travel, so I could squeeze in a workout when I had spare time without having to scramble to get all my stuff together each time, which is stressful, and invariably I would forget something if I did it that way. And I did do it that way for a while. And in doing so, having that coordinated and ready to go, you end up with more time for family. So, for example, I could go for a run or do stretch cords for swimming during a kid's soccer warm-up or between games at a volleyball tournament. Another example is training as my commute from home to work or back to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And that's actually more like 3 birds, since it's great as a work stress buffer before you get home. Free speed also makes it easier. What if you could get there faster in a race with the same level of effort? And what if you could do the same with your business or your life plan? That's what free speed is. In triathlons, it's about creating efficiencies of movement, aqua and aerodynamics, reducing bike weight, lowering friction by having a clean bike drivetrain, good fuel, hydration, and so forth. You can see here, there's a kind of a more traditional bike. This is a bike I use for training. It's heavier and less efficient, which is actually fine for training because it makes me work a little harder. But for racing, I have a different bike that has different geometry, more aerodynamic, a different design, and therefore helps you go faster when it comes to race time. And that can save you what in cycling is called watts or power, which is a measure of effort, and increase your speed. And the charts on the right here show the measurement of watts as units of power in wind tunnel studies, showing if you have a different position, if you are in a more aero position, or have a different bike design, or a different types of more aerodynamic clothes or helmet or what have you, you can again increase your speed for the same level of output. And when you're doing a long race, that really matters. So these are the little secrets and hacks that make the difference between dabblers and experts. And you really want to spend your time and energy where you can't get it for free, so that you get more bang for your buck in your training, since for all of us, time and genetics are limited. It's also easier when you make it more fun. Design it so you don't dread it. Train in beautiful places, mix up the scenery, ride with friends sometimes, maybe use different types of bikes and different types of terrain, do different routes, street, trail, swim in pools, lakes, ocean, maybe even surf some, and have comfortable equipment so you enjoy it. Also, by doing family bike rides, hikes, or swims, can replace some of your easy active recovery workout days, so you're getting more time with family, more fun time, and also makes the schedule more manageable. Another way I make it easy is by marking my race fuel bottle and setting an alarm on my watch during races to sound every 30 minutes, so that the excitement of the race won't prevent me from getting the right amount of energy or calories at the right time. That's actually a pretty big deal, the more hours you are racing. And there are lots of stories of athletes who had great conditioning, but failed to fuel right during the race and didn't even finish. In Wealth Life Matters, an example is to have your advisor help you schedule key planning meetings, automate savings and investing to fit your plan, so you don't have to think about it. It just happens. A good advisor will also nudge you to help get steps done and make better decisions easier. So after applying all these learnings, I showed up for Ironman Tahoe after nearly a year of preparing, and the race was canceled just 60 seconds before the start. Our feet were already in the water, and it was canceled due to smoke from wildfires. This was a few years ago. And people initially thought someone was playing a practical joke with the megaphone, but it was real, and people had come from all over the world and months of preparation. But I still really wanted to do that Tahoe race, so I signed up for the following year's race. And in the back of my mind, for that next year, I had a new soft stretch goal, but it was more of a dream than a real goal, which was to qualify for the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii, considered to be the most difficult triathlon in the world to qualify for. I did the Tahoe race, but I did not qualify for Kona. But I did hit my prior year's stretch goal, so I was happy about that, but did it more with brute force than with a truly refined plan. And that's when I realized I was really playing the B-level game. We see this with clients in the wealth life area and those matters all the time. Advisors really need to make it easy for extremely busy people to play the A-level game with their wealth life matters. A good design thinking process for wealth life looks something like this. It asks the right questions and figures out what will really move the needle for a person's specific goals and situation. This is a lot like the free speed idea. You want to do all the things that you need to do to be on track and focus your energy where it matters most. And here are some of the subcomponents of a good conflict-free objective process. And you'd be surprised how many really smart, wealthy people need help knowing what the next best action is. They often nail it in their businesses, but need help in the wealth life goals area since it's not their area of expertise. And for your employees, most of them have no idea what their number is to shoot for to be able to retire at the right time, or how much they should save from every paycheck, or how to invest over time. But there are ways to help make retirement readiness easier for them with good retirement plan design, more automation, web-based advice, and by doing that, you might even become their hero even after their careers are done. So to summarize lesson 2 in wealth and life, if you know what the levers of wealth and life outcome success are, you can make it harder for yourself and your employees to fail. Some people over-focus on the small levers that have little impact instead of the big levers, and good advising can help address that. Plus, you're already doing a whole lot of hard work, and you really want to make sure it's going to its best use as part of your plan, and that often means you can live better now and in the future than you thought with the right planning. Unlike triathlons, you don't get do-overs with wealth and life strategy, so you really do want to get that right. So, lesson 3, challenge your limiting beliefs and pace yourself to avoid gas pedal risk. After the Tahoe race, I felt a little burned out after so much effort and still getting nowhere near the podium. So what did I do? Well, I quit, of course. Well, not exactly. I just backed away from full Ironman distance races for a little while. But I started asking myself at that time, because I was backing off from full distance, was I giving up? If so, was I giving up too soon? Or was I being smart about focusing on my strengths? These are tough questions to ask, whether it's triathlon or other areas of life sometimes. And part of the problem is what in wealth and life terms we call gas pedal risk. In triathlon training, I was working so hard so often that I never actually could do the hardest work properly and right. Some people experience this in their wealth life picture also, pushing the gas pedal harder and harder, worried all the while that if you back off, you won't get there in time. In endurance sports, gas pedal risk is called overtraining, working hard but not getting enough recovery and rest, and that usually leads even top athletes to poor results and burnout, both physically and mentally. A coach once told me, training isn't what makes you stronger, it's the recovery that does, physiologically. The training sets the condition for improvement, but it's the actual recovery where the strength increase occurs and the endurance increase occurs. And that also applies to both physical and the mental. Maybe some of you have been there in sports or in business or in relationships, especially during stressful times. How often do you do your best, most challenging and creative work in listening when you're burned out? And when you're burned out, you're essentially standing still instead of going forward or even maybe going backwards. And so it's better to anticipate that and avoid that problem to begin with. And a good plan can help with that. The paradox is that having the right balance of work and rest allows you to put more effort into the hardest part and that helps you go farther, faster. For triathlons, this relates to having the right pace when you train, and you also have to pace yourself in the big picture to benefit from the training. So after the race, after the Tahoe race, I started interacting more with a coach, and I did learn that I needed to work harder at doing less. So that's not always as easy as it sounds, because your survival instincts kick in, and it makes it hard for you to back off. That was the case for me sometimes. You really need to tame the fight, flight, freeze response thoughtfully and through practice under stress to rewire your brain. A good coach or advisor will have a process and advice that helps with that. In Wealth Life Matters, an example is dealing with market volatility and the risk of emotional investing. When you, some people shut down and get out of the market and panic at the bottom due to fear, and that's a natural brain response. But when this happens, you stand still or go backwards, which can damage the plan. So having a journey-oriented focus can also reduce burnout, because people are living longer, and many actually prefer not to stop working entirely in their later years. They may just want to work less or have multiple careers with big breaks in between. So avoiding gas pedal risk and getting to your goals ultimately relates to the idea of limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are stories you tell yourself about why something is impossible. You can unknowingly reinforce those limiting beliefs with ineffective habits, or you can be a student always and dismantle those barrier beliefs with a good coach, asking the right questions and systematically creating experiences that gradually chip away at those false limiters, causing you to believe, and when you believe, more things become possible. Here's an example. Just about everybody we talk with dreams about some kind of sabbatical or extended time off. We've come up with something even better that we call a midlife gap year. And think for a second about how that would feel to take an extended break, to catch your breath, spend more time with family, recharge your batteries, maybe even come up with new ideas for your business or a new business idea. Gap years aren't just for college kids anymore. So let's take a poll here for a second, and we will ask you a question. Would love to hear your thoughts, and then I'll show the results. So here we go. Take a peek. You should be seeing that now. Give that just a couple of seconds. Tell us what you would do if you had a gap year or a gap half year or some extended period. Give us your top pick, because you might think a gap year is impossible, and you might be right. But what if you're not? What if your business were designed to depend on you less on a day-to-day basis? What if you made that key hire to expand your management team so you can focus differently? What if you sold your business and took a break before your next venture? Or what if you only had check-in meetings and took emergency calls during a gap year? Or what if you did the gap year in several 2 to 3 month chunks over a few years? Sometimes we're our own biggest barriers, and admitting that is often half the battle. That may feel impossible today, but with real planning, maybe it really is possible in a year or two. Remember, most things are 90% mental. So let's take a look here. It looks like I'll try to share the poll, and looks like about half of people would travel. About a third of people would pursue a hobby. About 20%, 18% there would learn a new skill. And some people don't know yet. Maybe, and that's not uncommon either, but there's probably an itching feeling that there's something you would like to do. So let me go back here to make sure. You can see the screen. Looks like I need to close the poll somehow here. It's not responding. Hang on just a moment, please. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I think we are back to the presentation. Good. So there's also another type of limiting belief at the other end of the spectrum, related to overconfidence. It helps to have confidence without attitude, so you approach challenges and accomplishments with humility to do the real work required for the goal. You don't want to wake up one day to find out that it's too late to get your wealth life goals on track. And there's interesting research that excessive dreaming about the future and the goals leads to underdoing. And some people are super doers in some areas and over dreamers in others. So that's something else to think about. So with these goals in mind, I'll note that we all have some kind of limiting beliefs, and I'm certainly a student myself, and definitely not always a master myself. So in terms of triathlons, with a bit more help from a coach and these new learnings applied, my mental and physical burnout faded, and I had some good races. So to summarize lesson 3, in terms of wealth and life plans, we've seen a lot of people overcome their limiting beliefs about living the life they want to live by sharing their crazy ideas and by getting help with the analysis to find out how to make it possible. That oftentimes means that gas pedal risk can be avoided, and you can live with more joy and less stress, and an advisor can help to know exactly what you need to do to make that plan work. And a midlife gap year or other ideas might be more possible than you think. And we do have a midlife gap year piece, by the way. If you go to the link at the bottom of the slide here, there's a download with a guide around that whole concept if you'd like to explore that. So lesson 4, keep learning and be flexible, knowing that both progress and setbacks are normal. On your journey, you'll have ups and downs and lots of small and some big breakthroughs. And when you have setbacks, it's key not to let them derail your plan. A good plan and guidance actually expects and is designed to absorb and adjust to those setbacks. And just knowing that the plan is designed to accommodate that can help a lot, give you a lot of peace of mind that the plan helps expect the unexpected so that you can focus on what you can control. Of course, that applies to triathlons, wealth life plans, your business, and other things. For example, in Wealth Life Matters, there are bad investment markets, or you might have bumpy business results. And the right plan already factors much of that in, so you can still get into the right range of outcomes. In triathlons, it might be bad weather in a race. Then you might focus on place instead of time. There can also be injuries, family needs, work needs, race cancellations, training challenges due to pandemics or wildfires or smoke or weather or equipment failure or stolen bikes or illness or poor recovery, and the list goes on. The possibilities of things that get in the way is almost endless, but having the focus and the discipline is what pushes through. And for no good reason, sometimes you just feel horrible in your training days some days and in other aspects of life, and that can make you doubt your plan. However, if you've been consistent in your training and have a strong foundation, having some bad days won't ruin your plan. If you have a good plan, bad days won't throw off your wealth and life goals either. And having data can be really helpful. It helps you measure progress and to prevent and adjust to those setbacks. For example, I use data and these charts to monitor something called decoupling, which is when the heart rate increases too much relative to a sustained level of effort. And it can tell you where you are in your training season and how well you're progressing. So the one on the left shows decoupling, where the heart rate is rising relative to the power level, which is more constant there. And this is on a bike. And that may be fine if you're in the early part of the season because you haven't developed the conditioning yet. If it's the wrong part of the season, if it's just before your race, this would be a sign that you might need to adjust your training or even adjust your goal itself. The other chart on the right shows no real decoupling, and it shows a lower overall heart rate at about the same level of effort or watts, which shows how fitness improved during this same season relative to the race pace and heart rate goals. In this case, I turned out to be ahead of the goal, so I could shoot for a shorter bike time, which gave me more cushion for the run, which is my weaker segment within triathlons. But without measuring, whether it's a triathlon or your wealth and life goals, you might not even know if you're on track or you're off track, or what to adjust. So having data and insight can be really critical. And a good coach will tell you that, for example, decoupling at this stage is normal. Don't get discouraged. That's exactly what you should be experiencing right now. Just stick with it. Similarly, you can have that same kind of data. You may not be at the asset level you think you need to be. You're fine where you are. Just keep sticking with the plan. This is where you should be at this stage relative to the plan. And you can learn a lot from a coach that's been there before many times, has helped others like you, and knows the physical and mental speed bumps you'll experience. And again, that applies to both triathlons and wealth and life. So to summarize the lesson 4 in wealth and life terms, tracking your financial progress towards your goals with analytical help from an advisor can help you make those adjustments along the way, rather than having to make drastic changes when it might be too late. We do see that sometimes as well, and that when people come to us without having done a plan at a certain stage of life, and that requires some bigger decisions usually. A good plan is flexible as goals and circumstances evolve to get you to your desired range of outcomes. And adjustments can be just as important when you're ahead of the game. For example, if your portfolio returns or your business results have been stronger than expected, then you can either up your goal or take a bit of risk off the table and help lock in, relative to your goals, versus taking more risk than necessary for the goal. And sometimes that happens unknowingly without help. And how about your employees? Are they distracted by financial concerns, not knowing if they're on track to ever retire? Some studies show that people who feel safe about their futures, or feel like at least like they know how to get to a safe place or know how to get on track, they tend to be more productive and tend to have higher morale and lower turnover. And you'll feel better knowing that they're on the right path. And that's a higher level of leadership. Lesson 5, admit your true goal and commit action to the A-level plan to get there. After more races, the Kona Ironman World Championships was still on my brain. But I struggled to believe that I could go from a B+ level outcome to an A-level outcome. I would have to shave an hour off my best time. And I had already worked hard. How much more hard work could I do above and beyond what I had already done while having a family and running a business? And if you can't admit, it's hard to commit. So I hedged. I would say, yeah, that would be great to qualify for Kona, or maybe someday, rather than really fully committing to figuring out what it would take. And I had managed peak busyness for the most part and improved my grit, but I still had limiting beliefs getting in the way. I was afraid of failing, really, if I really tried. And I thought better coaching wouldn't really help, or more coaching rather. And that's where I was still stuck in the B-level mentality. This struggle also made me think more broadly. If I wasn't willing to try for the A-level game in triathlons, was I also failing to commit to what it takes to the A-level for other important areas of my life? And yes, again, this does sound a lot like a midlife experience, doesn't it? So, like any self-respecting and imperfect person or athlete, I committed, but just halfway. So I decided to try for Kona and started training. I really loved the idea, the dream of Kona, but in reality had lots of escape hatches in my head and kept telling myself I'd register for the race once my training showed that I was ready. But that left room for excuses. And research shows, by the way, that if you enjoy things less when you don't commit. And I definitely felt that uncomfortable limbo feeling. Then I was swimming in Lake Tahoe with a friend who was a multi-time Kona finisher and whose been there smile and a few words really said it all. You need to go deeper with a coach if you want the A-level game. So I really did then commit and engage the coach more fully, and finally signed up for a Kona qualifier event, in this case, Ironman Argentina, which was also the South American Championships. I soon learned that having a deeper coaching relationship can quickly elevate your game. Having a good coach means accessing knowledge and guidance, which is standing on the shoulders of others rather than just trying to figure it out yourself. And the coach asked the right questions and narrowed in on the key things I needed to do to get to a more elite level. It was also almost embarrassing how simple some of it was. My swim and my bike fitness data was actually on track, but the run was my limiter, which was no real surprise. And I needed to simulate in my training race pace efforts in certain training days, on my long run days, both for confidence as well as the physical training part of that. And the confidence is partly training my brain for the pain, knowing, not having that discomfort be uncomfortable. And as a good friend of mine says, feeling comfortable with discomfort is such a key life skill. That meant going even easier on recovery days so that true quality days were possible. So all these things start to come together when you have all the pieces of the puzzle. And suddenly, I was getting more clarity, less frustration, more progress, and faster. And the coach then gave me this: prepare yourself for the hardest hour of the year. And that was referring to the last hour of the marathon leg after a 1 hour swim, a 5 to 6 hour bike, and after the first 2.5 hours of the run. And this mantra helped me to see that the hardest part would be temporary and worth it. And here's the thing, I'm sure you've experienced this before too. The coach could see what I couldn't, and could see what the struggle is, and had seen other people go through it before, and had seen people break through, and help people cross that bridge. And it took some trust and letting go, but that's what I needed to do to have a chance at having a leap in results. So to summarize lesson 5 in wealth and life terms, I bet you've had a coach or a teacher or a mentor that made a big difference for you in some part of your life and changed your direction for the better. A good wealth life advisor becomes your coach, personal CFO, analyst, and mentor around helping you identify and admit, so to speak, how you really want to live your life, so you can reverse engineer a financial structure and the number required to support that life goal. And a good advisor also helps you stay on track and avoid distractions and emotional based decisions. And that's really how an A-level game works in this space, the wealth life space. So lesson 6, when things get tough, dig deep, execute, and appreciate. This lesson is really about sticking with the plan and pushing through when it matters most, and finding some joy in the struggle. So the time came, finally, to take that 18-hour flight to Argentina for the Kona qualifier race. I hoped it wasn't a bad sign when the airlines lost my bike for 3 days, but luckily I'd arrived a few days early and got the bike just in time for the race. 2 days before the race, I was also a little worried because I still felt fatigue in my legs. Even going up a short flight of stairs had some of that burning feeling. And so some doubts crept in. Was my taper off? Did I not have enough fitness? Then I thought back to what I learned in my past experience and from the coach that, that's normal, and sometimes it just all comes together. Then the morning before the race, that stair test changed. My legs felt great. It felt like I was floating upstairs. And also I usually sleep poorly before a race, but this time I slept really pretty well. I knew this time I had done what I needed to do, and that if I stuck to my plan, I had a chance of qualifying for Kona, but I was still on the bubble. Then at dawn on race day, the water was cold and wavy, which worked in my favor growing up as a swimmer and water polo player. And the bike course was flat, which was not always great for me because I am more accustomed to training and riding in hills. And there were also 30-mile-an-hour headwinds on big chunks of the course. Then I realized that the wind resistance was just like hills. And so while others battled the wind and were frustrated with it, and I could see that on their faces, I embraced it and had a a bit of a secret smile during the race on that bike leg. I didn't overwork the bike into the wind. I stuck with my plan. I thought of all my mental and physical training, and I kept telling myself, just trust the plan. I did extra aerodynamic positioning into the wind. I got taller when I had a tailwind to be more like a sail. I tucked in behind people for a precious few seconds of legal drafting just before passing people when I was lucky enough to pass. And I paid special attention to fuel and hydration on the bike to set myself up well for the run. And I got a mental boost when I came in at the end of the bike leg into the transition area and had my fastest 112-mile bike time ever, despite those wins. Now, the final leg, the run, my historical nemesis. I started out excited and too fast, and I had tailwinds, and I had to process that, and I remembered that I needed to control my energy since pacing is so key. I still had about 3.5 hours and 26 miles to go. And I also took a few moments occasionally to look right or look left and notice the beauty of the coast and the ocean, and would smell the ocean air and remember where I was and what I was doing to try to appreciate it in the moment without losing focus. And midway through the run, I was a little off pace versus my ideal pace goal, but I fought off the doubts and just stuck with it. And then after 2.5 hours, it was time for the hardest hour of the year. I had trained all year for this. I knew that if I pushed too hard too soon, I would fall apart before the finish. I kept repeating to myself, the hardest hour, keep the right pace, keep good form, trust the coach, trust the plan. It was a grueling hour, and after 9 hours, even the most experienced athletes start to wonder, why do I do this? And the answer to myself was, do something extraordinary and do it to inspire your kids. Just keep going. You've worked hard to get here. And with a half mile left, I rounded the last curve on the run, and I could hear the race announcer calling people in. Oh, what a sweet sound is the voice of the race announcer, knowing that this was almost done. And I could hear the name of calling out the names of finishers, and I so badly wanted to be one of those names. And the pain started falling away. I stopped checking the pace on my watch just to take in those final moments, pushing that border between failure and success. And I pushed through and barreled down that final chute through the cheering stands and crossed that finish line. And it was really something, quite a feeling when the announcer called out my name. And then I looked at my time. It was a sub 10-hour Ironman and my personal best by 50 minutes. And that was really quite a feeling. That was such a special moment. I ended up placing 4th in my age group in the South American Championships. And most importantly to me at the time, I did qualify for Kona. So I let out a primal yell like I never had before, and I pushed myself. I pushed myself for 140 miles to my limits, right on the edge, both mentally and physically. And it feels really great when something like that comes together and you hit a stretch goal. And then after a few minutes, a flood of thoughts started coming to my mind. There were intense emotions. And it was really kind of a primal survival experience, or at least that kind of feeling. I felt a deep sense of love and longing for my family, so much appreciation for their love and support. I'm really their biggest fan, and they are mine. And with a tear in my eye, I called my wife, my kids, my brother, my parents, and some friends to celebrate. And then I couldn't help but wonder, what would have happened if I hadn't taken that chance, if I hadn't really developed a plan, if I hadn't challenged that limiting belief, if I hadn't got the right coach to get the right support to help me navigate some of the nuances that I probably couldn't have fully figured out myself. Seemingly small decisions that all ended up really changing the game. And then I stuck around into the night for another 7 hours or so, watching other people make their breakthroughs, cheering on the first timers as they stumbled across the finish line in one of their life's most intense moments of struggle and joy. So that's my Kona qualification and learning journey. And I'm still enjoying the afterglow of breaking through those limiting beliefs and that feeling of feeling them fall away from you like a weight belt. The feeling that comes from that is really that nothing is impossible. Now I'm training for Kona and still shaping my new stretch goal, but racing Kona will be all gravy since just qualifying got me into my ideal range of outcomes. So to summarize lesson 6 in wealth and life terms, you might feel like your wealth life goals are impossible right now, or that it's impossible to create a plan for them, or that you're on track, but you're worried that you could get off track. And you are going to have challenging times along the way. The challenges may relate to your business up and downs, or market or economic hiccups, or other surprises. But when you have a real plan in place and a professional to help guide you, you're more likely to find an efficient path, to know what to do, and to stay the right course. And that peace of mind allows you to be more present, doing what you do best, and with the people you care most about, appreciating what's most important to you. So lesson 7 is simple. Life's made up of moments. Make sure to notice and celebrate the small stuff as well as the big wins. In wealth and life planning, all of your effort and your life's work and the planning and discipline to stay the course for your wealth life goals will build up to things that you'll be really glad you did. Maybe that's making work optional, or maybe it's something else. But the journey and the destination will be better. It will be better with life-changing advice and with the right help at your side. So I hope these lessons, these 7 lessons have been helpful to you as a framework for accomplishing big wealth and life goals. If you follow this approach, you'll almost certainly get re-energized by having the right goal and having it be clear and achievable, and having a plan to get there. I also hope I've inspired a few of you even to give a short triathlon or some other kind of endurance event a try. You will be, it will be an experience if you haven't done it, and you will be glad you did. I'd also love to connect and hear your stories and your advice as well. We all have so much to learn, and I would love to learn from you. So these 7 lessons apply to triathlons and Wealth Life Matters, and you can also download a wallet card or that goal quadrant chalkboard I mentioned earlier, or the gap year guide, and you can see the link here. Feel free to take a peek at that, and there's a wallet card that you can print out and fold up and put in your pocket, or reach out and we can send you one. And really want to thank you for your time. We wish you the best in pursuing your biggest, most important goals. And now we'll take a few questions. If you have questions, please plug them into the chat box, and I'm sure they'll open that up and see what comes in. Okay, it looks like we have a few comments and questions here. Okay, let's see. There's one. Hang on, let me scroll through and take a peek. Yeah, thank you for all your thoughts and comments here, everybody. Let's see, there was a question here. How long did the whole triathlon take? How long was the swim? The swim in this case was about, the distance is 2.4 miles. My time was a little over 50 minutes. I think it was around 53 or 54. The bike was about 5 hours and 15 minutes. And the run, I think it was a 3:38 marathon, give or take a minute. Yeah, I tell you, one of the, after these big races, they usually have a mess hall for the athletes. And after doing that kind of effort and burning 5 or 6 or 7 or 8,000 calories, you see a lot of hungry people in there. It's quite an amazing feeling to have a meal after that kind of exertion. I'm sure some of you have had similar experiences. There's a question here to clarify what the 3 areas of the business focus are again. Yes, so one is wealth and life strategy specific to, or focused on business owners and leaders. The other area, it's really about helping, our overall business is about helping business owners and leaders with the 3 areas of their life. One is their personal and family goals and financial structure, their retirement plans to help their employees, and then endowments where they are involved with their philanthropic efforts. So those are the 3 primary areas. Let's see what other questions have come in. Looks like let me take a second here, see if anybody's typing something else in. Looks like that might be the bulk of the questions. I'll wait just a few more. Oh, wait a minute. Here's something else that came in. Someone that has done over 100 triathlons and all the distances. That is great. We've got some stories to share, I'm sure. And with very different levels of training, it sounds like there's some great stories in there that I definitely need to catch up on. And there's a question here about, are your plans tailored to individuals or group plans? I believe this is a wealth life question. So let me see if I may have already answered this with the other question I answered, but there are 2 of the 3 areas we help in. Our wealth and life strategies are tailored specifically to each individual or family. Comprehensive financial planning, that full process outlined earlier in a couple of the slides. And then separately, there is a different service supporting sometimes that same business owner or leader, but in their business around as a fiduciary to their retirement plan, helping them design the right retirement plan for the demographics and their needs, everything from the structuring of the different providers of the plan to fit the needs, the investment design to make it easy for people to make good decisions, education, advice tools to help them make smart choices in terms of saving and investing. And so those are the, I hope that addresses that question. If not, please reach out to me directly if if that wasn't the answer or if I'm answering the wrong question. Let me see. Well, I think that's what we've got for questions. If you're typing something in now and we end the webinar, please save it. Or if any of you have any other questions, reach out to me or someone at the firm directly. Any of us can be helpful in questions. There was also, for those of you that are curious about triathlons, be happy to send you something I put together for people that as a kind of a starter plan for different triathlon lengths, and be happy to help and even give a few initial pointers for those that are just starting out in that space too. So thanks so much for being here today. It was a pleasure, and thank you for attending, and look forward to catching up and talking with you soon.